Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Steel Target Paint Podcast. Of course, I'm Jeff Jones, and I'm here with my partner in crime.
What's up, Jeff? Steve Foster here. How is everybody doing tonight?
Hey, everybody. Sorry we haven't been able to get any of these out sooner, but, we've both been busy, not only training and shooting, family. If you watch Steve on Facebook, he is on, I think, honeydew number 2,375, something like that. He's been busy.
Jeff, thank God we're doing this podcast because I've got at least 3 more projects I haven't posted today.
I like the goat mountain that was built. I think that was the last thing I saw. So they now have a place to run around.
Yeah, we've got. I guess goats like to get high. I mean, be high. Hey, edit that, Jeff. Edit that.
Yeah. No matter how you say that, it's going to come out wrong.
I know, right? My brother had a great idea. He says, "Where's the spikes at the bottom of the pit?"
Nice. Well, Steve, we've got a very special guest with us today. I reached out to him, and he graciously agreed to be with us. He is one of the winningest world champions in both the World Speed Shooting Championships and USPSA. In the World Speed Shooting Championships, in one division, he's won the last 6 years in a row. Wow. The other one, he's won the last 5 years in a row. And he just recorded his 5th year in a row winning at the USPSA Low Cap Nationals. Everybody, I'd like to welcome Michael Pogue to the podcast. Michael, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Absolutely. So, have you had to, Steve had to buy a barn and to feed all these animals or house all these animals. Have you had to put on an addition to the house for all your trophies?
We're building a new house this year just for that.
Oh, beautiful. That's great.
Hey, Jeff, I don't think he's kidding either.
I traded a couple of them. No, I'm not. I traded a couple of them just for the cost of lumber rising.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
We're going to make it, I think.
Yeah. Don't tell anybody, but I've got a new World Speed Shooting Championships from like 2016 trophy coming in. I was one of those secret auctions that you sold it on. I paid way too much for it, but it was worth it.
Yeah, don't tell anybody.
Well, if you've never been to a World Speed Shooting Championships, they are becoming more and more exciting. This year's was no exception. We all shot it there for multiple days. Michael, what was your take on this year's World Championships?
Well, let me think back. I guess it was probably only 5 weeks ago, but in that time I had USPSA Nationals as well. So as soon as I got home, I shifted gears. But let's think back about it. I don't think this year was a little bit earlier than it has been in the past, so it felt a little bit cooler compared to years past, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was beautiful weather out. Usually you're worrying about dying from a heat stroke, and this is like, man, I may need a sweatshirt this morning.
Yeah, what was it?
Yeah,
I think that was that first year in Alabama. It was brutally hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now they made a good choice moving it early in the year.
They did. If I had any complaint about that, it would only be that we can't start shooting till 9 there.
Oh yeah.
It just ends up being such a late evening.
Yeah, it's just a law in Alabama. You can have a private range and you can shoot before 9, but any public range can't shoot before 9 a.m. And that's why they keep the squad sizes to 8 in the morning to try to get it done in about that 4-hour time frame, so they can get the afternoon sessions done.
Are the squads larger in the afternoon?
Yeah, they're 10-man squads in the afternoon, or 10-gun squads in the afternoon. Yeah.
See, and I thought everyone just got really tired and got really slow and lethargic in the afternoon, but that explains a lot. No, so that was kind of the standout for me this year was the temperatures weren't, nobody was getting killed out there.
Yeah.
It was pretty temperate. I want to say it was in the 50s in the morning and, maybe wound up in the mid to high 60s. But as always, headquarters and the local group there put on a great match. A lot of good vendors this year. Nothing. The prize table was great. They put on a great awards ceremony and gave us just enough food to get us back into town anyway. So.
Yeah, well, they do it up right, and they get a great voice for doing the prize table announcing. Oh wait, that's me. I guess I shouldn't promote myself. No, but they do. They put on a great show. Scores are posted, very quickly. Zach and his team does a great job in that. I thought the ROs did a great job keeping the squads moving and being able to shoot. And of course, like you said, the weather was beautiful. I think I started every morning session that I shot. I was in long pants and comfortable, and usually in the afternoon you could switch to shorts. But it was still comfortable all day to shoot in shorts if you wanted to. And you mentioned the vendor area, and we had some new vendors this year, which I'm hoping that next year it gets even bigger. And I think it will once the word gets out that, these vendors can really show off their products. Brian was there with a new Magical Mystery Tour van, and, people were getting their Kona Golds and trying out Hunter's HD Golds. And I know of at least one person that their gun went down, and they went to Brian's van and said, "I need a gun." And he was like, "Go in there and pick it out," which is a wonderful thing for him to do.
Yeah, he's got guns for most divisions. I need to talk to him about getting a couple revolvers in there, though. I don't think I've seen any.
I know. I was thinking the same thing. You took the words right out of my mouth. All right.
I'll talk to him. We'll build up something special. We'll get some carbon fiber in there, and we'll make it up good.
I may have, if that's the case, I may have to have my revolver go down at the next World Speed shoot so I can shoot that one.
He'll be just loaning that out left and right, huh?
Yeah, for sure. Michael, I wanted to talk to you let's talk a little bit about gear. What pistols do you shoot in Steel Challenge, and how do they differ from USPSA?
Yeah, so my guns that I shoot in both Steel Challenge and USPSA, and also in ICOR's, it's kind of USPSA and outlaw revolver only style. But I shoot 929 Smith & Wesson model 929s in all three of those. It's an 8-shot 9mm revolver, and we only make minor. We don't have to make major in any of those divisions.
Okay.
So USPSA, I'm using what looks a lot like a stock gun. I take everything apart, all new internals from TK Customs. And I'll take the barrels that are shooters, the ones that are really good, and we'll set them back a turn or two to set the gap proper with the cylinder. We straighten cylinders out if there's an issue, and really just clean the guns up. We don't take it quite to like a bullseye level, because when the gun got dirty or hot, it wouldn't run if we took the tolerances that tight.
Gotcha.
But the USPSA guns are really, they look factory. There's a lot of factory parts there. But everything's new, everything's cleaned up and polished and straightened if there's an issue. In Steel Challenge, we take the barrels off and we put carbon fiber barrels on. So I think a factory barrel's weighing somewhere around a pound, and then the carbon fiber barrels that we build coming in between 5 and 6 ounces, depending on length and profile and everything. But we really get a lot of weight off the front, and that's kind of a popular theme in Steel Challenge, is to take a lot of weight out of the gun. And I think there's some other people that prefer to shoot a heavy gun. I think Colby shoots a really heavy rifle. Have you guys shot Colby's rifle?
Man, we've talked about
like
that
8
before.
Pounds.
I like Colby like a brother, but man, there's something wrong with that guy. I think the stock is 8 pounds, but yeah, it's super heavy. There's a pro and con to it for sure.
There is, yeah, and there's a bunch of different ways to attack that problem. And what I found that I'm not really faster with the lighter gun, but you go to a long practice session, either live fire or dry fire, and you draw the gun, several hundred times in a day. You're going to take a lot of strain off your joints, off your elbow, off your shoulder when you're drawing the gun, especially as hard as I'm trying to get after it. So, so take those heavy barrels off there and work on a lighter barrel, somewhere in the 10 ounce range, lighter, and then sub minor load. I'm shooting a 115 grain bullet in the mid 1000s.
Sure.
And that's probably one of the hotter revolver loads. There's some revolver steel loads I've seen out there that I feel pretty comfortable with a catcher's mitt downrange. So
we've seen them. Was that a thud I heard?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Michael, I shoot a
Yeah, so
929, and the one thing I noticed, and I'm running, I've done some minor work. It's still, like you say, stock. I'm not running a carbon fiber barrel, although in the back of my mind, I'm hearing the ka-ching of a cash register or the swipe of a credit card happening here. But the thing that I noticed, I haven't done the enhancements like TK can apply to the gun, but I have changed out some of the internals. I think the stock trigger pull for a 929 is somewhere around 12 pounds. Do you know for a fact?
Yeah, I've got, I think I have 11 or 12 929s now, and usually I'll check all that stuff when they come in, and I'll write it down, but it's hard to find a trigger gauge that goes up that high, isn't it?
Yeah. So I know I've got
so
mine down to
11 or
about
12.
5. What are yours
11
running?
or 12 is where the Performance Center brags about them. I've opened a couple boxes and found some in the 16s.
Okay.
Mine have a really heavy return spring, and that's something that I find really important when it comes to shooting fast, whether you're transitioning between plates or in USPSA, where you're down in those mid-teens on one piece of paper. So I'm going to set the gun up with federal primers only. I don't even make an attempt to shoot anything else in almost all my guns, and a really heavy return spring. So a factory return spring is somewhere in the 14, 15 pound range, and I'll usually use one of those, maybe take a little bit of spring tension out of it, but I don't cut it, and the gun returns really fast. So I'm actually in the 6.5 to 7 pound range.
Okay.
Wow.
So I make sure I set the mainspring high enough where I get 100% fire rate. I don't want to have any issues with light strikes anywhere.
Yep.
Right.
And then I run a really heavy return spring. So I have a gun that I shot in some bullseye matches, just kind of winter, working on those fundamentals. And you don't need any type of return at speed in a bullseye match. And that gun's in the high 3 pound double action.
Oh wow,
so
that's crazy.
Yeah, there's definitely some potential to really get the gun down there, but going fast, you kind of ignore that weight and you really focus on being able to return that trigger. The trigger has to go so far. I mean, Steve, how far does your triggers have to go on your 22s?
Not that far. It's in all seriousness, it's maybe, I don't know, a quarter of an inch, 3/8 of an inch.
Yeah, at the most.
Yeah, at the most. Yeah.
I'm up in the 1/2 to 3/4 range, depending on where your finger decides to land on the trigger when you're really going after a draw.
Right. Do you shorten that at all, Michael?
No, I don't. No, full length. We run a trigger stop on the back of the trigger, so that as soon as the gun is done doing what it needs to do, the trigger stops and runs into the frame, and then you're able to get back off of it again and reset it.
That's got to take out a little bit of the travel, right? Out of a factory gun?
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah, the factory gun will over travel pretty good. Enough that, probably about as much as one of your 22s moves, to be honest.
Sure.
Enough that you would definitely notice it. So.
Well, Michael, I know last year, I think we squatted together and I had asked you, what got you into shooting revolvers. Why don't you share a little bit of that story with our listeners?
So I actually just kind of stumbled into it. It seems to how everyone kind of stumbles into their division. I was shooting, I shot autos, and in high school I shot a 3-position air rifle, and I did all right into some major tournaments and had a couple of offers from colleges, and it just wasn't something that really hit me at the time. And when I left school, I stopped shooting for a little while, and then kind of stumbled my way through all the things I could afford. You know, shotgunning, a lot more hunting, and then by the time the age of handguns rolled around for me, I was going to a couple of IDPA matches a month, a couple of outlaw steel matches, maybe a bowling pin match here and there. And you know, that's I was talking to Colby the other day, and I was telling him that's the hardest age to get through shooting, is when you're young, you're in your early 20s, and you're starting to pay for things where, you know, before maybe you had a school sponsoring you, or a junior team, or parents, the greatest sponsor of all. You know, and if you can get through your early 20s still shooting, you're going to have a chance at making it beyond then. You can get over that financial hurdle and that life hurdle of you know, jobs, kids, wives, all that. So so I was probably 24, 25, and shot one match a month kind of thing, and I was kind of burned out. I was just about done shooting. I was thinking about hanging it up for a year. I think I helped run a club match for 2 years. And my father-in-law, we were just over at his place, and he hands me a little 357 revolver and says, "Here, try this." And I was like, "Oh, this is interesting. This is something different." It's one of those things. I was kind of in a rut, and it just kind of piqued my interest. And so he let me borrow that for a few months, and yeah. He let me borrow that for a few months, and boy, here I am 10 years later.
So let me ask you this, because I know Steve does a lot of practice. I do a lot of practice, and, you know, we preach the fact that if you want to get better, you're going to have to practice. How much practice do you put in, even now during the ammo / primer, powder, bullet shortage that we're going through? How much are you able to put down range?
So for me, I set my practices up to plan for the next major match. My entire year focuses around anywhere between 3 and 5 majors. Steel Challenge is obviously a big one for me. USPSA Nationals, I-Corps World Championship, the IRC, and then if there's going to be any other types of big match, there's a handful of outlaw revolver matches that go on around the country, and some of them get pretty big, and there's some pretty big names that show up to them, so we have a pretty good race. And then the IPSC World Shoot. So that's really kind of how my year focuses out. And at the beginning of every year, I'll kind of pencil out where I need to be for each of those matches. And so if all those matches are kind of bunched together early in the season, obviously I'm not going to fire as many rounds as I would if they were spread out over the season. But for me, a general number, if everything is kind of hunched together in, you know, 2, maybe 2.5, 3 months, I'm looking to shoot as few as 50,000. Things are
in what
out,
time frame? In what time frame? You're looking at putting 50,000 rounds down in 3 months?
I'm looking to be at my level somewhere between 6 to 7 weeks out from a major. So at 6 to 7 weeks, at that point, it's just making sure my eyes are fast, making sure my hands are where they need to be. If I'm going to make any gains, like this year, I actually made 4 seconds off my Steel Challenge time from last year. That's another 2 months of work before that. So something like the Steel Challenge, we shot it in April. I started training hard middle of probably second weekend of January.
Sure.
And what's training hard? How many days a week? How many rounds a day would you say?
So for me to go to Steel Challenge practice, that's outdoor practice only. Work is 100 miles round trip south, and range is 100 miles round trip north. So if I'm going to work and practice, we're looking at 200 miles and about 4 hours on the road.
Yep.
And I'll do that 5 days a week.
Wow.
So
and laying down, how many rounds you laying down?
Average practice session is anywhere from 8 to 1,200.
Wow. That's
a lot of shooting.
Yeah, listeners, there's your answer. If you want to get better, if you want to maintain, here's a guy that's at the top of his game in the revolver and the World Speed Shooting Championships, and took 4 seconds off. 4 seconds for those that, I mean, we've got listeners of all different levels. 4 seconds at Michael's level is an eternity. And so,
well, and it's 4 seconds. That's 4 seconds that I already had in practice. I already had that time in club matches. That's just
Okay.
4
Right.
seconds. That's just me getting closer to my normal times, just doing it on that day, no do-overs, on
Sure.
command at the
Yeah.
World Championship. So
oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't care who you are. You go to the World Speed Shooting Championships, it means more than shooting a level 2 or a level 1 or anything of that nature, or an outlaw match. And so to be able to stay focused and do that is quite an accomplishment.
yeah. So Steel Challenge probably saw 30 to 40,000 in 3 months. And then as soon as I got home, my guns aren't even clean yet. I mean, I just got home from USPSA Nationals a week ago today,
Mhm.
and I didn't clean my Steel Challenge guns from a month ago. They went straight in the safe, and I had 40,000 rounds of 130 power factor ammo ready to go to practice for USPSA Nationals, and I shot all of that in 3 weeks.
Man, that's a lot of shooting.
But that's a little. I don't have to drive all the way to my outdoor practice for that. So that's 7 days a week, 5 days a week indoor after work, and
Sure.
and then weekends I'll make the trek up to the outdoor range. So
No, that's cool. Looks like you had a pretty good fight on your hands with, who was it, Rich Wolf that came in second to you last weekend?
Caleb did this year.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, so Caleb, Higby, Josh Lentz, and Rich Wolf, they're all kind of right there battling together, and it's the last 3 years I think they've swapped places each year. So
Man.
So
Yeah,
what was
I've
your-
shot with-
it's always
What
tough.
was your take at USPSA? I mean, I was able to watch the live feed and saw some of the stages. Actually, saw the revolver squad shooting. Saw you out there on one of the stages. What did you think of this year's nationals?
I thought it was good. Again, same thing. The weather didn't beat us down too bad. We were on 3 half-day schedules. So we started at 9, and I think they were scheduled to have us off the range at 12:40. The first day was our short day, so I think we were done maybe an hour before that, and then we kind of went over to Chrono in the vendor area and kind of milled about for 20 minutes or so, and then we were out of there just afternoon. Compared to shooting full days at the Steel Challenge, it felt like a vacation. I mean, we shot 5, 6 stages, 4 or 5 bays, and normally when I walk off the range at Steel Challenge, I shoot morning and afternoon. I'm beat.
Oh,
I don't even want to drive. I want
Yeah.
someone else to drive me around if I can get away with it. I want to shower, I want to eat some food, and I want to go to bed. But we're out of there. I was in the hotel taking a shower before 1:00, and I was like, oh, that was really easy. Let's go do that again. So I really enjoyed that. But they put down 20 stages in those bays, and one of the bays was a vendor area, and that bay also had chrono and like a test fire, function fire area. So they did a really good job of using the bays that were available, and something that I think is missed out on at club or area levels is short stages. And that's something that
Yeah.
I learned a few years back at the
Mhm.
World Shoot is some of the most interesting stages are in that 10 to 14 round, I should say 8 to 14 round. They don't have to all be long. You don't have to be running to have a really interesting, you can have sub 10-second stages, even with a revolver, and find them very interesting. Throw in a couple of movers, throw in a couple of options, and it can get interesting. So.
Yeah, the IPSC does that 3-2-1 format where it's 3 short courses, 2 medium courses, and 1 long course. Everyone, you're absolutely right. I mean, we go to local matches and everyone's like, 12-round stage, but I want to shoot 32 rounds. And to your point, you can have a very interesting and challenging, short course that test your skills. And it's not just about, being able to shoot a headshot at 20 yards. It's different skills that you can apply. So I agree with you on that.
It is. And I had a different perspective this year. My dad came with me. It's the first time he's been to anything but a local match. And I asked him what he thought. And he said, well, that was a lot different than I expected. He goes, every shot in this match, I think I could make. So he goes to a club match and he sees, a plate rack at 30 yards that, I'm not going to say a PCC shooter put it out there, but
just saying.
Or a Texas Star at 18 yards. And that's really hard on, the bulk of the sport is, I think C and B shooters, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
For sure.
And the last thing that I want to see at a club match, or especially at a nationals, is that guy get out there and put a magazine at one or two targets. And that's just hard to watch. And this match did a really good job with the stage designs of making sure that there wasn't a single shot out there that a C-class shooter couldn't make. There was no target that give a C-class shooter a magazine and say, all right, put two in that target right there. There was never an issue with that, and I think that's really important, especially when it comes to nationals. The top guys are going to push. You give us an open target at 18, we know that the next guy's going to shoot it as hard as they can, so we're going to have to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it really doesn't matter if you throw out, put 50-yard partials out there. Okay, well, the top guys are still going to figure out how to get a couple bullets on that piece of paper. But, the rest of the field's going to have a really hard time with that. And that's just not something that I want to see.
Yeah, and we talked about this before, I think Jeff and I off the podcast. There's another shooting sport. It's not Steel Challenge or USPSA, so that kind of narrows it down. Sorry, Jeff, you may have to edit this out.
Nah, it's okay.
They had a major match, and it was, I didn't shoot the first year where they changed the format. I shot the second year. And I mean, you're shooting plates out there 30, 40 yards with a rifle, and it's like, okay, whoever's going to come out on top is still going to come out on top. But, I was squatted with some youngsters, 12, 13-year-old boys and girls. And, one girl started crying because she ran out, 3 out of 5 stages. It's kind of like, or strings, it's kind of like, where's the fun in all of that? You know what I mean? So
yeah,
you make some good comments around that. I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. Just because it could be a little bit tougher, not quite as tough, doesn't mean that the top people aren't still going to come out on top. You know what I mean? So,
well, I think if you ask most of the top people,
back,
I mean, Michael's one of the top shooters, and you ask the other top shooters, and do they want to shoot a 50-yard headshot? And the answer is no. They'd much rather have the challenge of being able to break down the stage.
yeah.
How can I shoot this faster on the move? Or how can I engage it differently to maximize my efficiencies? Because that's what they're doing at those levels. And everyone should be doing that. It's just that you're going to maximize it at the level you're at,
Exactly.
That's
it
something.
wasn't that long ago, 15, 20 years, that a lot of clubs went away from the Steel Challenge, and they became unaffiliated clubs for one reason or another. But I've talked to some people that have been around for 30, 40 years, and they kind of had the same opinion, early 2000s, that the Steel Challenge stages were too hard for the average person to come out. The average person's going to walk out with whatever they have at home, a Beretta 92 or Glock 17.
Yeah.
They're going to come out with the 2 magazines that they have. And, I mean, we all know how difficult that is, even for experienced shooters, coming out with a bone stock, Glock 17, stock trigger, stock sights. You might start at low ready because you don't have a proper holster. You're new, you're shaking in front of a lot of people, and you're going to open up on pendulum.
Oh yeah, for sure.
What a nightmare for a new shooter.
Yeah. It's funny. We run a local match, and we've always getting people, they come out and they check it out, and I want to shoot this. I said, great. And, what are you shooting? And, I've got a Glock, or I've got a Smith & Wesson Shield, or I even got a CZ. And I'm like, do you have a 22? I said, you will come out and you will have more fun with a 22, and you want to have a lot of fun, put a dot on it. I said, understand what it's like to shoot these stages, because you're absolutely right. Roundabout, Smoke and Hope, Showdown those are relatively fun stages with any gun, and capable shooters can shoot those. But you put somebody on pendulum and they're reloading to now get a shot on plate 2 because they've missed plate 1, 9 times or 10 times. It's just demoralizing for them. And you come out with a 22, feel what it likes, and then and they also realize that they might not be as good a shot as they thought they were.
Yeah.
I know you do some training, and the one thing that I preach is, grip the gun and go 1 for 1. And what a lot of people don't read into that is it's go 1 for 1 at your speed. You're not going to be a world champion the first time out there. So don't worry about the time, but if you can go 1 for 1, you can get to start feeling what it's like to take a sight picture on each of these plates. And yeah, you can blaze by, smoke and hope, and maybe get lucky and not see the sight or the dot on the plate. But you're not going to do that with pendulum or the 4th plate on 5 to go, or the, plate number 3 on accelerator. It's just not going to happen. You better have a good sight picture, or
exactly.
And good fundamentals of marksmanship as well. I mean, I think that's what a lot of people forget. And it was funny, you were talking about people liking heavy revolvers, and I'm one of those, because I'm still, I'm pushing it, and I'm close to GM, but I still have those occasional, crappy draws, and I'm virtually teacupping the gun, and it stays on target because it's so heavy.
Yeah. When I take new people out, I don't even ask them what they have anymore. I said, all right, you're going to be at this address at this time, and you need to bring glasses and plugs, and I'll bring everything else. And they go, really? And I go, yeah, I bring a gun. A gun that works. That's important. A lot of new people don't realize that their guns don't work, or they busted out that Mark II, that Ruger Mark II that they had, and they shot it 10 years ago at a pop can, and they haven't cleaned it. And so while it might run a mag, it's not going to run a match.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I just bring everything. I give them everything they need. I got a little range bag for them, and they go out and have fun, and they want to go out again. They ask, how much does that cost to build? How do I get into this at the right price? And they have much more fun when the stuff just works.
No, we dedicated an episode to talking about that, where it's, we said, a $2,000 gun, a $6,000 gun isn't going to make you a better shooter. And a $400 gun that runs is better than a $1,000 gun that doesn't run when it comes to this game, because it's, especially when you're crushed the first 4 plates and you go to the stop plate and the gun goes click. That's quite demoralizing.
I saw some young shooters this year that are making the jump from rimfire to centerfire at the Steel Challenge, and they're not that young. They're adults now, on their driver's license, anyways. And they come out and they have a good showing with all their low ready guns, and then they switch to a gun from the holster, expensive guns from the holster, and it just doesn't. The gun won't work. The mags in the gun don't get along. Something, and they don't have the time. They don't have the time into that gun in practice to get the gun running smooth. And and a lot of rimfire guns, at least a lot of my rimfire guns, they'll work a lot dirtier than centerfire guns in some cases. So,
what do you shoot, Michael?
I saw a lot
of
ahead. People upset that their centerfire guns didn't run.
Let's talk a little bit about your rimfire guns. Are you shooting 6.17s?
I am a 6.17, so that's a Smith & Wesson 10-shot 22 revolver.
Shoot the 4 or 6 inch, or do you have one cut, a 6 inch cut down?
I've got for open rimfire pistol open. I've got 2 of them. One of them is this goofy little cone pencil barrel that weighs 1.9 ounces.
That's crazy.
So we basically got rid of all the barrel weight and aluminum cylinder. So we're down into the low to mid 20s, 20 ounces for the entire gun weight with grips and a dot on it. And then for iron sights, I have a 6-inch gun that we cut the underlug off of. So brought it down to 4-inch weight, but gave us another 50% sight radius.
Sure.
But I try to stick with revolvers. It's too hard for me to jump back and forth. right now. I've spent a lot of time on it outside of big matches like that, but just not happening for me yet.
Yeah.
Did you happen to see Takumi's gun at the World Speed Shoot?
I did. He shot a 6-shot gun.
Yes, and it looked like Han Solo's blaster.
Yeah, I saw a picture that Casey posted
Yeah.
on Instagram. Yeah, I don't care what it looks like. You show up to a Steel Challenge match with a 6-shot gun with 5 plates out there, you're on a whole nother level.
That's right. That's right. Speaking of a whole nother level, you're talking about some of these young kids that can't come out of the holster. What about my man Kenny? Holy cow, he shot what, an 82 in open?
Oh yeah, what an animal! What a great kid too. I had met him before this match, and he'll be up there. He'll be in Super Squad with us next year, setting that pace. They're pretty impressive.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
There's people
you're
that
right.
shoot years that can't shoot an 82.
He's a great kid. And did you see? He posted on Facebook. He goes. This is the string I think that made me famous, and it was shooting his open gun. And he ended up like he shot and then he stopped and then he looked and then he shot again and then he stopped and he looked again. It was, and he just, I mean, but again, the perfect attitude. I mean, there was one where he shot and he was close. He was shooting PCC and he does this move where he like, I don't even know how he can do it, but he gets really low, almost like he's limboing. And I'm like, oh my God, what does he do? You know, and he was, I think it's his way of like, oh, geez, I was close, but I didn't make it. And then it, lets out a little frustration. But, and again, I got to meet his dad. And of course, as a junior, I gave him the standard thing. I always tell all the fast juniors, I said, you better watch out because I've got this foam finger. And if I'm shooting with you, I'm going to poke you right in the eye because it's the only chance I'm going to beat you.
Yeah, he's pretty impressive, especially at that age to come out of the holster like that. I think it was Casey's the last person who was that fast at that age.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to go back in time and see, because I think Casey won his first open for Steel Challenge when he was 13 or 14, right? Somewhere in there?
13, 14, 15, somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the time was pretty similar to what Kenny just did.
Man, that's crazy. Yep. He's hopefully he keeps a revolver out of his hand, huh?
Yeah. We don't need to worry about that. Just too slow.
Yeah, he's holding up his PCC cup, and it's like half the size of him.
Oh, did you see the picture when he had like his cups and medals at in front of this thing? It was like it weighed twice as much as he did. I mean, he's just a little wisp of a guy, but yeah, he can move. There's for sure.
Yeah, he's quick.
So
it's really good to see, especially someone that young coming in and coming from the holster. I mean, all of his times from the holster were really aggressive.
Oh yeah,
I'm hoping to shoot with him here in August down in California, and just absolutely impressive.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Back to your 617s. Did TK Custom do those?
Yeah, they did. Those have Apex mass driver hammers in them. So Apex made some hammers that were specifically made for 617s. You still need a little bit of weight. So in the centerfire guns, you want to take as much weight out of the hammer as you can, where with a 22 rimfire, you need to leave a lot of the weight in the hammer. And where I grip the gun on a revolver with the grips that I use some Pogue grips that they cut kind of like Jerry's, but they slimmed them down on the sides. I actually grab the gun up on top of it, and I can't shoot a gun with a spur with that grip.
Mm-hmm.
So if I leave a factory hammer in any revolver, the spur will just run right into my hand and won't be able to finish its stroke. So it's the mass drivers from Apex for the 22s. They keep a lot of weight up top, but they kind of shorten it up just so that the hammer's not going to come back and run into your hand.
All right, I think I'm going to be making a phone call on tomorrow morning.
Yeah, get in line, Steve.
Yeah.
I've got like 3 seconds to squeeze out for OSR, and I'll get my 8th GM, and I am I don't want to say struggling. I've got to step up my mental game. Um, I had it happen this weekend at a local match where I had 3 great runs of accelerator, and then I started thinking, and it was all over. and
Yeah.
I broke the rule, and instead of just going out there and shooting, shooting, it's not my term. I've used it from other people, but that subconscious shooting where you just how to do everything. Pick one thing you're going to do, and focus on it. And I started worrying about missing plates, and then I missed plates. And for you shooters out there, your mental state is huge, and I think that's where a lot of the kids excel. And it's not that I've always said it's not that they don't feel fear, and it's not that they're afraid of missing, but they just have such confidence in their speed that they're not worrying about misses. They're not thinking about them. And I think that's a huge positive that they bring. So many people I shoot with could be faster. They just are afraid to miss. And, man, I miss all the time in practice because, you're pushing your speeds. And I'm sure, Steve, you're out there, at one point you were the world record holder in smoke and hope. And I'm sure in practice sessions, you missed a lot to be able to get that fast. Am I right?
Yeah, it's just the concept we've talked about before. It's like driving a car. The first time you got behind the wheel, you're going 45. You're like, oh my god, all these telephone poles. And after a while, it's not a big deal. Same thing when you're driving all at 60, and then even 80 miles per hour. You have to experience that type of speed to feel comfortable. Along those lines, Michael, what's a good tip that or something that's really an aha moment for you from a technical or shooting perspective, something that maybe you pass along during your training to a lot of people, but something really that's kind of like, what, this one thing, when this happened, it all came into focus and everything was clear for me. But what would that be?
I'm not sure if there is one thing. I feel like I have an aha moment every time. I don't know, every 2-3 weeks I go out to practice. I go, look at that little thing.
Yeah, for sure.
This year I changed my training a little bit on Steel Challenge, and I think that had a lot to do with the number that I was able to put up this year. Was I talked to BJ Norris. I called him up probably back in February, and we had a conversation about perceived speed, perception of accuracy, and then real speed and actual accuracy. And something that I experienced a few years ago shooting standards at USPSA. USPSA Nationals used to be held at Passa Park in Illinois. I don't know if you guys have ever shot there, but they would set standards on turning targets. So the targets would be at 90 degrees to you. So you couldn't even see them. And then the time, there would be no buzzer. The targets would just turn, and you draw the gun, and you'd shoot. And they'd give you 6, 7, 8 seconds to shoot. There'd be 3 targets. You'd shoot 2 in each, and you'd reload, and you'd shoot 2 in each. And sometimes after that reload, you shoot strong hand or weak hand or freestyle both times. But they put real distance out there, and they put hardcover on them. I mean, I remember shooting 6 freestyle both times at 35 yards in, I think they gave us 6 seconds.
Wow.
I mean, with a draw and a reload and putting rounds on paper. And I took that home and I started to practice that afterward. And I worked on different vision techniques, watching the sights, observing the sights. But something I learned and something I talked to BJ about a few months back, and I never really talked to anyone else about it, was you don't get more accurate as you go faster. So what I mean by that is you guys were just talking about missing in Steel Challenge. This year I went out to practice. I probably got 6 or 8 really solid practices in before my wife came to practice with me, and she goes to all my weekend practices for Steel or USPSA, and just kind of helps me out or is there hanging out with me. And she came to probably somewhere just short of my 10th Steel Challenge practice this year, and I think I opened up on 5 to go, and I don't really do a warm up when I come into practice. I just load the gun and go for it. And
Right.
I might have got 1 or 2 plates on that first string, and I kind of saw her out of the corner of my eye, just kind of look at me, and she didn't say anything. And then I did 2 or 3 more runs, and she's like, "Is everything okay?" I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, I total, you've hit like 10 plates out of 5, 6 moon clips. Is everything going okay?" I said, "Oh yeah, I'm just working on my speed and I'm observing. As long as I see the dot and I see that I miss rather than hear it, I'm okay with that." And she goes, "Are you sure?" All those runs were sub 220. So I'm not expecting to go out there and shoot 5 plates on 5 to go in the teens, in the 2 teens. But when I slow that down to 230, 240, I'm getting 4 out of 5, or I'm going 5 out of 5 once every 3 times. And between that, noticing that perception of speed, like you were just talking about, Steve, and that conversation I had with BJ about slowing down, unless you add seconds to each shot, you're not going to turn, you're not going to turn an inaccurate shot into a really accurate shot unless you're just observing the sights more. And if you just observe the sights more at speed, you're able to see the same thing you'd see if you shot slower and still hit the target or miss the target. The outcome is the same. You're just observing it harder. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we've all got, I call it the wild thing. I don't know what Steve says, but when I have my students go and I say, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go as fast as you can possibly go. I want you to target every plate. I don't care if you hit a single one, but I want you to tell me where the sights were on any plate that I picked that you missed.
Yep,
And
that's right. And when I do a class, I show up with a dozen targets, USPSA targets that are spray painted black. And we'll put them out at 20 yards, and sometimes we'll even stack them. And I'll have people put 4, 5, 6 rounds on that, and then I give them a little target. I say, all right, draw on this piece of paper where all your bullets are. Well, I can't do that. I said, well, then you're not looking at the sights.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's kind of funny, Michael, because Grant and I, fortunate enough to spend some time with Grant over the last couple of years doing some training and whatnot. So I'm writing an article for USPSA magazine based on his performance at the World Speed Shoot. One of the things that we got into is this exact discussion about, he said, Steve, a couple of years ago, he's got such a fast finger. I mean, he can pull the splits that the kid can shoot it. Unbelievable, unprecedented. And as far as I'm concerned, I mean, there's other people out there that are that fast, but he can transition the gun so darn fast. And he said, it just been working on the visual stuff, and he's just seeing it so much more. He said, Steve, there are times with the lights in the right direction. He says, I can actually see the bullet and where it's going to impact the target. It's crazy to get that type of visual discipline. And it's my frustration comes in. I was sharing this a little bit with him and some other people here not too long ago. It's like, with school, or, you got the kids and the job and building structures for the goats, Jeff, and all that kind of stuff. It's, I had a training session, not yesterday, but the day before, dropped, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 rounds, because I had some time on my hands, and, I got a little frustrated, and I was shooting outer limits, and it's like, I'm pulling the trigger, and it's like, what the heck am I looking at? It's like, why not? It's just that visual discipline. It's, why don't you let the sight get on the target before you pull the trigger? How about that? But, to your point, though, I didn't get too frustrated because I knew exactly what I was doing. And when I'm training folks, that's what we focus a lot on is that, because I'm standing behind them, I said, you're just pulling the trigger a little bit too soon, or you're cutting your eyes off the dot as it's entering the plate. And that's why you're shooting to the left. It's like, how do you know that? Well, there's not too many things that you're doing that I haven't screwed up before. And, but it's interesting after you get through, pulling the trigger, how to reset it, and transition the gun, and how you rotate and all that kind of stuff. It is a lot of visual discipline, and that comes with time in practice. It's I'm a little envious. I know Ashley is absolutely amazing. You've got a great support system there, Michael. So she's one cool lady. I like seeing her at the range, and it's great that she comes out and supports you. but with kids and whatnot, man, it's so tough sometimes to get to the range. But I enjoy it. And I actually,
Wait, whoa, stop. It's so tough to get to the range, okay? It's like
it is
25 yards down a hill in your own backyard, okay? We've got a guy here that drives 100 miles to work and then 200 miles to the range, and it's so hard for you to get.
man.
Michael, don't let this guy fool you, okay?
Hey, Michael, did you know that? Do you know that I have a home range?
Yeah, there it is.
I hear that. Yeah. I'm building a new house, and I don't have a home range at my
No, dude, what are we doing here? Oh man.
Maybe you guys heard what homes are going for right now out west, but
man,
a home range is probably out of the question for me.
Where are you at? Are you in Washington, or where are you at?
Yeah, I'm north of Seattle, about 2 hours north of Seattle, right on the water.
Okay. Awesome.
So home range isn't an option. I am kind of messing around with a pellet gun though.
You know what?
Interesting.
It's funny you say that. I just got one today. I bought an M17 SIG pellet gun, and I've got GT targets making me some 6-inch targets. And that's something I can shoot in my backyard. Just make sure that the shrapnel's covered, and I'm going to see what I can do there just to have some fun, because next year I'm going to have to pick up the iron sights and start pushing those guns. And I need to relearn visual patience on those guns, because I'm so used to shooting a dot that I pulled out my SIG and for production, and I pulled the trigger fast, but I think it was like that practice you had where I was trying to hit the plates, but I only hit 2, where you weren't even trying.
See, this is where revolver comes in. So you can do full dry fire practices with revolver.
Yeah. You
don't put holes in the wall or piss off the neighbors or any of
it. All right, man. So what's next? I mean, you're on top of the mountain in terms of the revolver circuit in the last 4 or 5 years. So what's the next 4 or 5 years look like for you?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think that far ahead. I take it one match, one day at a time.
Yeah, I hear you.
These guys in USPSA. I mean, Steel Challenge. I got a good gap right now to the next guy in Steel Challenge. But USPSA, these guys are always pushing. These guys are shooting hard. They're shooting a lot more matches than I am, and they're also willing to throw whatever they've got at the wall and see if it sticks. Where I'm out there for the long game. When I started nationals this year, I go, all right, I got 20 stages, and when the music stops, I know where I need to be standing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And some of these guys, they throw something at the wall and it sticks. And then it sticks in the next stage, and it sticks in the next stage, and you go, "Oh, am I going to have to turn this up?" You kind of got to go out there and play the long game. I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, Ben Steger won production nationals and didn't get a single stage win.
Yeah.
So that's him thinking 20 stages long.
For sure.
And I think that's what you've got to do to stay ahead. You got to have an edge. You got to have something. But I've got some other things going on. I might, you guys might actually see me pick up an auto here at a Steel Challenge match one day.
Oh!
I want to. Do you shoot PCC at all?
No. I have guns for every division, and I will shoot it, and I'll go, well, that was fun. I'm going back to my thing.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way.
Someone loaned me.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I like all the divisions, even the Iron Sight divisions. Yeah. I like the challenge of them. I like the fact that we've got 13 divisions. I've got guns that I could go in any one. And you were talking about how you were shooting for a while and you kind of lost interest, and your father-in-law gave you a revolver, and it was like, oh, this resparked the interest. And that exact same thing happened to me when I started shooting all the centerfire guns. And it was just a challenge of from a draw, being able to shoot fast. And it's what's kept me involved. I love shooting RFPO. I love shooting PCC and RFRO. They're great guns. They're a lot of fun. But for me, the challenge in the center fire is what has kept me driven for the last couple of years.
Yeah, and it's a whole new world for compared to low ready guns.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think there's been a couple of I'll call them generational changes to the game in the last 10 years, and practice score has been one of them. Did you guys compete before practice score was a thing?
No.
Mm-mm.
See, I'm from back in the day where there's a club that I shot at for years that you brought a self-addressed stamped envelope and you got the results a week later, hand scribbled and run on a photocopier. And I don't feel like I'm that old, but here I am.
Old school, baby.
Yeah.
So back in the day, like 7 years ago, not that long ago, the results would come out. Each club did a different pre-practice score. They'd kick them out on a Excel doc, convert it to Word, post it on their website, or USPSA would have results. They used, I think it was Easy Win Score. Same thing. It kind of kicked it out in a graph. Nothing too exciting, but there was no combined button. And if you went to a nationals where they shot, like this past nationals, we shot 4 divisions in low cap. There was a website, I think it was called combinescores.com. And it was the most generic form you'd ever seen. It might have been run off a server in like Russia or something. And and unless you sat down and did long form math, or you went to this questionable website, you don't know where you finished in. I don't know where I finished with a revolver compared to single stack shooters.
Okay.
And I think that's really I think the practice score combined button has really had an impact on the choice, the gun people come out with. I mean, you guys probably use the app, right? Practice Score Competitor app.
Absolutely.
Sure.
You pop that open, you search for your match. The match comes up, and what does it open up with? It opens up with combined overall.
Yep. Yeah.
And I think a lot more people look at that today and go, well, I want to be on that first page, and I want to be in that top 10, top 12 at my club match, at my area match. And so I think a lot more people have gravitated toward those low ready guns, especially low ready guns with a dot. And where 10 years ago, not even 10 years ago, 5 years ago, those guns were entry level guns, and then everyone went towards the centerfire guns from the holster.
Yeah.
And I think we see that now especially at the World Championships. I mean, we had 650 guns there, and maybe 200 entries came from the holster.
Yep, 635.
How many? 635?
It was 635 that finished, and there were over 320 guns in just PCCO, RFPO, and RFRO. Those 3 divisions
how many
were over half the match.
How many when you click on main match? How many are there? 150?
I think that worked out to be like 22% of the match or 25% of the match.
Yeah. So I mean, it wasn't that long ago that if you wanted to shoot one of the low ready guns, you showed up on Thursday, Friday, and it was kind of a hangout. Everybody just kind of says hi and shoots those guns together. And now that's really taken over the match. And I think that has had a lot to do with that practice score combined, that information output that practice score is kicking out now.
Sure.
And everyone in the sport today is, even you guys, you've never been to a match without practice score being right there for you.
Yep.
So
I tell you, in the last year, maybe year and a half now, 18 months, for me, I think the biggest advance has been the integration of the AMG Labs timer, the practice score, and with practice score competitor, you're able to go back and look at a match or use it in a practice session, which I use practice score all the time and just record my strings in a match to be able to go back and look at what my splits are. And
so do you use that timer in practice?
Yep.
Right? Do you set up your own match and
Yes.
and report to your own match,
Yep.
so that later you can go over that data?
Absolutely. And I shoot it. So
It-
practice is practice. And then I always end that practice with what I call match conditions, which is a little different than normal because, as you said, we're a sport that it's like, okay, you're up, go. And your warm up was, maybe running around the range or doing some jumping jacks or something like that. We don't get USPSA, they have a hot bay, and they did have a hot bay at Worlds, but if you were shooting the first session, it didn't do you any good because we can't shoot until 9. So, you have that advantage of having a little warm up, but it's totally match conditions with regards to, makeups and being honest with yourself with misses. And it's amazing. I don't know if you do this with your students, but I do with mine all the time. And, we're at a practice and I just say, okay, it's match conditions. I break out a tablet and I'm there ready to go. And suddenly they tighten up like, okay, this means something. And that's exactly what I'm trying them to get not to feel is I want you to feel comfortable shooting in a match condition. So when you do go to majors, it's just like, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm here. It's no big deal. 5 to go is 5 to go.
Yep.
And it makes a big difference. And once you can get somebody past that, feeling the, Shannon calls it the juice, or nerves or whatever, and just go, listen, I just need to do what I need to do. Stop thinking like I didn't do this weekend. Stop thinking and just perform. Those times start coming down.
Yeah. I don't think that juice, as Shannon says, ever goes away.
Yeah. Well, he felt it at Worlds.
It doesn't for me.
Yeah.
There are a couple people that go out there, and my daughter's one of them. She says she never gets nervous while she shoots. It's like, are you kidding? I'm nervous while you're shooting,
Yeah. No, I don't. I think if that ever went away, I'd probably think about doing something else.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it.
Well, Shannon's
Shannon's
juice is that, ready to go, getting ready. It's the juice isn't nerves, and nerves aren't always bad. I listened to some of Lanny, and he talks about how nerves aren't a bad thing. It's you just have to learn how to not let them control you.
Yeah, I think what a lot of people miss is that a lot of people think that they inhibit your performance, but physically they can actually enhance what you're about to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's all kinds of stories about people doing superhuman things when they shouldn't. But if you feel that running through you, and you can just go, okay, I'm here now. I'm ready for this to go. And someone asked me probably a year and a half ago. Someone says, you get nervous, and we were just about to do a big shoot off, and it was for some money, $1,000, $1,500, a head-to-head shoot off, falling plates. And I said, well, I got pants on today, but otherwise you would see my legs shaking.
For the love of God, thank God. Yeah.
and I'm 100% serious, and I love that. I get up there and I go, all right, this one counts. Let's send this one.
Let's do it. Yeah, that's cool.
Excellent. Well, Michael, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners? This has been a great hour. I really appreciate your time. Is there, any other words of wisdom or insights you'd like to share?
Nothing comes to mind unless you guys come up with something. I grab a little bit from everyone here and there. I grab stuff from the top guys. I grab stuff from experienced guys that aren't top shooters, and I grab stuff from new shooters. And I go, hey, what's that guy doing over there? Let me take that to practice and try that and see if it works. But there's no one way to do everything right. And I think Steel Challenge is a great example of that. You'll see top shooters shoot different plate orders.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they also have different mindsets of how they're going to go out and do it. So there's no right way to do it. I think recently a friend of mine sent me a picture of Lena gripping a gun, not not as would be prescribed if someone was drawing it out for her. Maybe not even as her dad would describe if he was going to show one of us, but it works for her.
Right.
And I think that's something that's important for everyone to remember if it works for you. Now, I'm not talking about putting magazines backward in your mag pouch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about a holster right where your belt buckle goes. 'Cause I'm pretty sure we've proven all those methods aren't the most effective. But, if you have a different grip technique or you see a plate order differently than someone else does, don't rule it out. Don't think that you're right, but don't rule out your way or someone else's way.
Well, it's funny you say that because there's two classic stories that I like to use just in this topic, and that is, most people shoot 5 to go, 1, 2, 3, 4 stop. But I've never saw him because he doesn't compete anymore. But I've heard that Rob Latham would shoot it 4, 3, 2, 1 stop because it was very effective for him.
But this is Rob. And there's no.
Well, he's the other part of the story is when I took a class from Shannon, and he was talking about how fundamentals of marksmanship and grip and trigger press, and he's like, now don't go look at Rob Latham shoot because Rob will tell you he slaps the trigger, and
yeah,
but it works for him because the other parts of it are so good. So that's exactly, supporting your point is that you've got to find out what works for you. I always ask shooters, they always come up, and I know Steve has heard this from a lot of people. Michael, I'm sure you've heard it. What's the best way to shoot this stage? It's smoke and hope. What's the best way to shoot this stage? And, I've done the math on the movement of the guns, and it's like, just don't ping pong. Just don't go back and forth. Yeah. 1, 4, 2, 3 stop is not correct. Okay.
Exactly.
Other than that, I'll ask people, well, do you like to shoot left to right or right to left? And they're like, well, I don't know. I said, well, then we need to find that out because that makes a big difference in how you're going to shoot this stage. Yeah. Again, to your comfort zone. So. Excellent.
Yeah. And with Steel Challenge, if you can help it, just change direction once.
Mm-hmm.
That's really all there is to it. Just one. If you can start at one side, go all the way to the other, and come back, or like 5 to go, you can go all one direction. Sure, but you're not going to argue if Rob Latham shoots at 4, 3, 2, 1 stop. That's because Rob went out and shot it 100 times, 1, 2, 3, 4 stop, and 100 times 4, 3, 2, 1 stop, and he goes, I'm 2 100s faster going this way just because I'm more consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And he knows that if he takes that to a match, he's not going there to look for record-breaking numbers. He's just going, Rob might look at that stage and go, I just need to survive 5 to go.
Yeah.
I could trash this in the 13s from the holster, or I could just sit here and run a comfortable 12, even though, I'm not going to give myself a chance at an 11 or a 10-5, but I'll just sit here and run a high 11, low 12, and that's that. Call it a day. So if that's what works for him, and boy, if he could give me some pointers on outer limits, that'd be great. I'd shoot outer limits backwards and sideways and upside down all day if I could just come up with a consistent run on it.
Yeah. In a small, quick story, talking about Lena and being a student of the game before, I saw this youngster out there just slaying it out on Instagram. It was Kenny. And so I picked him up off of Instagram, which is cool. But I asked him a couple of questions. I said, man, why do you do this? Well, Steve, because Chris does this. And I said, okay. Well, why do you do this? Well, because Grant does this. And I said, well, why do you do that? And he said, well, does Steve, you do that. And I'm like, all right, that's cool, But it's but we've talked about before about being a student of the game. I mean, everybody's got a little bit different slant on it, and what makes them really effective at what they're doing. And so, to be able to take little pieces of that to make your own game and to make it better, man. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Well, thanks again, Michael, for spending time with us, brother. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right.
And I know you do some training. How can people reach out to you to do some training?
If people want to get a hold of me for training or they want some 929 barrels built, actually I'm branching out into some 617 carbon barrels too for the rimfire guns. Facebook's the easiest way, or catch me at a match. But shoot me a message on Facebook Messenger is really the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Sweet.
All right, sounds good. Hey, Steve, why don't you give us that Steel Target Paint Podcast rangestore.net discount code?
Yeah, it's ST Podcast 10 to get 10% off at rangestore.net. Michael, thanks again, brother, for spending time with us. It's always great to see you and always great to talk with you.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, you guys too.
All right, bye-bye.